Many data center customers are looking for ways to take control of their power consumption and drive a lower overall total cost of ownership. Lenovo XClarity Energy Manager helps to understand power, temperature, and system utilization within the data center and optimize data center efficiency through improved data analysis. Let's take a closer look. Here on the main dashboard screen, we're getting an overall view of our data center infrastructure. At the top, we're seeing information about current temperature, seeing information about power consumption, and also about capacity, both power capacity and space capacity, with information about multiple rooms, racks, and devices within those racks. We're also getting a view about current summary consumption. We can see here at the bottom our data power summary, showing us the top 4 power consumers from both a server and from an enclosure viewpoint. And here in the middle, we're getting a view of any hotspots that might exist. We can see here we've got identified some of our systems that are running outside of what our current ASHRAE specification is. So we'll select one of these and drill into a more detailed view. And we can see for this particular system, at the bottom here in the summary, we can see current temperature, power consumption. We can even see the location currently within this rack. If we want to get a better feel for some of the temperature and power utilization over time, we can come in and begin to look at this graph initially over an hour's period. We can, for example, expand it out to a day. We can see the temperature at the top, power consumption, highest power, lowest power, as well as average consumption over the time period. And then at the bottom, also to get a view of a bit of the workload happening inside this system, CPU utilization, memory, and I/O utilization. So we're getting that view of what's happening on this individual server. We also want to understand, since this is about a hotspot, well, what else is happening inside that rack? So I can get now a rack view, temperature and power utilization for the rack. If we click back over to the summary tab, we'll see identified now each of those 4 servers residing at the top of this one rack. So that's going to give us an indication of where our hotspot is located and where we need to begin to look further at what might be happening with the airflow inside of that data center and in front of that particular rack. Now we can also begin to look at the other racks in the center. If we begin to look at our front row, we can see we have other racks. And again, if we wanted to get more information about these, we could look through each of these racks to understand what systems are installed, and again, the overall temperature, power, and space utilization for each of those racks. Now, all of this is really looking at things in terms of physically where they're installed in the data center. We may also want to take a cut at this data with a view towards workload. And so here you can see we've begun to create some groups that allow us to look at things according to different workloads. The web cluster, our VDI cluster. Let's say we wanted to look at more detail, for example, on our HPC cluster and understand that workload. We can see the systems that are associated with that workload, but maybe more importantly down the bottom here, we can begin to get a view of the utilization from a temperature, from a power point of view, and again, be able to look at that over time. This is really going to give us some valuable information if we want to begin to apportion some of our expenses back to the different workloads for things like power consumption inside of the data center. Now, we've also looked at some of these things in terms of looking at what's happening over time. Understand you can also set thresholds. And so if you need to get events, notifications when certain things cross over certain thresholds, you can also set that up. So in this case, we can see here an event for a specific rack. We had a threshold set up, and it's crossed that threshold, and we can dig into this and understand more about what's going on. So it's not just about seeing the overall data, but it's also about alerting and understanding when things happen that we need to go and take a closer look at. So in addition to just the data gathering and monitoring that we've looked at so far, XClarity Energy Manager also gives us the opportunity to begin to look at some bigger questions within our data center. So here on the energy optimization screen, we can begin to look at things like workload placement, identifying low utilization servers, maybe understand if we've got some opportunities for certain servers that we could upgrade to improve the energy efficiency for that workload. Or let's take a closer look, for example, at energy cooling analysis. This might be something we want to look at across our data center and begin to consider if we want to change our ASHRAE design point for the data center. Right now we're running at a certain level. Perhaps we may have to look at a, let's say, class 1 temperature range, right? What would be the potential impact of beginning to run a warmer data center? Well, obviously we're going to be able to save some money because we're going to be able to shift the temperature settings on our cooling equipment. So here we can see that a 5 degrees C temperature raise would have some significant potential savings as we look at the power being consumed on our chillers. And again, XClarity Energy Manager would be someplace I could come back to and see the impact. If I change the temperature settings and see now the impact of the overall data center, do I have any other hot spots that begin to develop? Right, it gives you that broader picture of what's happening inside my infrastructure. So in a nutshell, that's a quick overview of XClarity Energy Manager. You're really allowing infrastructure administrators to better understand our data center utilization and optimize data center efficiency.